Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're jumping right into a really fascinating question. Could the actual food sitting on a teenager's dinner plate be a secret weapon for building mental resilience? I mean, we all know being a teen is tough on mental health, but what if a huge piece of that puzzle isn't just psychological, but nutritional? We are going to break down the science of how diet literally shapes the teenage brain. Let's get into it.
So, is adolescence this unique, critical window where nutrition can actually make or break mental health? Well, let's look at what the IAFN Cognitive Health Committee found when they went digging for a link between nutrition and emotion. Their starting point was pretty profound. They found that overall healthy dietary patterns are heavily linked to fewer depressive symptoms in teens. Because think about it, adolescence isn't just about physical growth spurts. It is this highly sensitive time where the brain is actively being built and sculpted by the exact fuel we give it.
Which brings us to Section 1, the food-mood connection, beyond sugar rushes. You know, we constantly hear stuff like, oh, sugar makes kids hyper. But the reality goes way deeper than that. Mental health is actually highly metabolic. That means food is a direct physiological input for mood. It literally dictates the chemical environment of your brain. It is a whole lot more than just a temporary sugar crash.
Now, when researchers went looking for a quick fix, they found something super interesting. Popping isolated supplements like a vitamin D pill or omega-3s doesn't help nearly as much as having a solid, well-rounded diet. Eating a variety of fruits, veggies, whole grains, and lean proteins proved way more effective for mental health than any single supplement. Basically, you can't just supplement your way out of a junk food diet. The whole nutritional picture is what actually moves the needle.
All right, Section 2, Measuring Carbohydrate Quality, the Turkish study. If we want to see exactly how food impacts mood, we have got to look at the real-world data. Let's zoom in on a really comprehensive study published in Frontiers in Nutrition. They tracked 192 high school students in Turkey, evaluating their exact day-to-day diets and then cross-referencing that data with standardized tests for depression and anxiety.
And the key here is how they measured the food. They relied heavily on a scoring system called the Carbohydrate Quality Index, or CQI. What this index proves is that when you are talking about carbs, it is not about how many you eat. It is about the exact type and quality. Look, not all carbs are created equal, right? This scoring system helps us separate the brain-boosting fuel from the processed stuff that just totally drags us down.
Here's what is really cool about how they scored these carbs. They didn't just guess. They used specific criteria. They looked at the glycemic index, total dietary fiber, the ratio of whole grains, and even whether the carbs were solid or liquid. So liquid carbs, like a can of soda, score absolutely terribly. But fibrous, solid whole grains, those score exceptionally high.
So what happened when they matched those carbohydrate scores to the students' mental health? The results were honestly kind of mind-blowing. The data showed a striking, near-linear relationship. Literally, as the quality of the teens' carbohydrates went up, their depression and anxiety levels went significantly down. The group eating the absolute lowest quality carbs had the absolute highest levels of depression and anxiety. Their food quality was almost perfectly mirroring their psychological state.
Moving on to Section 3, the anxiety of skipping meals, an empty tank. Because it wasn't just about what these kids were eating. Researchers also looked at how they were eating. Let's be real. Thanks to crazy schedules, sleeping in, and social pressures, skipping breakfast or lunch is a super normal teenage habit. But the metabolic consequences, they are severe.
The numbers here are just staggering. Over 60% of young women in this study regularly skipped main meals. For young men, it was about 32%. Think about that for a second. That is a massive chunk of teenagers trying to run their developing brains on a completely empty tank.
And the consequences are drastically clear when you look at the results. Anxiety levels just completely spiked for the teens who skipped meals compared to the ones who ate regularly. And it makes sense biologically. Skipping meals causes your blood glucose to crash, your body panics, forces stress hormones like cortisol to overcompensate, and basically plunges your mind into a state of chemical stress and anxiety.
Okay, Section 4, hidden nutritional deficiencies, imbalance on a plate. Let's shift gears and look at the actual nutritional breakdown of these diets. It really paints a picture of widespread deficiencies just hiding in plain sight. A teenager might be eating thousands of calories a day, but their brain could literally be starving for actual nutrition. The pattern of imbalance we see in the data is pretty shocking. Both the young men and women were consuming way too much sodium, phosphorus, and dietary fat, which, surprise, surprise, are the exact hallmarks of a highly processed diet. But at the exact same time, they were severely deficient in critical brain-building nutrients. We were talking folate, calcium, iron, zinc, and fiber. It is basically a recipe for growing a physical body, but completely neglecting the neurological support system. So, Section 5, How Carbs Impact Brains, the Biological Chain Reaction. Now, you might be sitting there wondering, okay, what is actually happening inside the body to connect a low-quality carb to feeling anxious or depressed? It is not magic. It is a very real, highly documented biological chain reaction.
Let's walk through it step by step. First, you eat high glycemic index foods, like refined sugars. That causes your blood sugar to rapidly spike, which throws off the synthesis of key mood regulators, like serotonin and dopamine. Next, the inevitable sugar crash hits. That activates your HPA axis, which is your body's stress alarm system, and that shoots your cortisol levels through the roof. Finally, all those excessive refined carbs trigger systemic inflammation, which goes straight to the brain.
Oh, and we absolutely cannot forget the gut-brain axis. High-fiber diets are incredibly protective because your gut microbes take that fiber and turn it into anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids. Refined, low-quality carbs do the exact opposite. They actively disrupt your gut bacteria and provoke what is called neuroinflammation. Basically, skimping on fiber leaves your brain completely unprotected and actively inflamed.
Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, A Recipe for Resilience. Empowering well-being. Guys, this isn't just about avoiding a stomachache, or dodging cavities, or even managing weight. This data proves that our daily dietary choices are the absolute foundation for psychological stability. Growing up is stressful enough, right? We really shouldn't be making it harder by chemically stressing out the teenage brain with junk food.
So, what are the actionable takeaways here? To actually build mental resilience during adolescence, we have got to do 3 key things. 1. Prioritize high-quality carbohydrates, meaning whole grains and lots of fiber. 2. Absolutely avoid skipping main meals, so blood sugar and cortisol stay perfectly stable. And 3. Focus on an overall healthy diet instead of just crossing our fingers and hoping a single vitamin pill will fix everything.
The researchers in the Frontier study summed it up perfectly. Stepping up our nutritional game is a direct, scientifically proven way to support a teenager's mental well-being. It is kind of a massive paradigm shift. Nutrition isn't just preventative medicine for your physical body anymore, it is proactive therapy for your mind.
I'm going to leave you with a thought to chew on for your own life, or maybe for the teenagers in your life. Take a hard look at your plate today. Are the foods you choose actively feeding your stress, causing those invisible spikes, crashes, and inflammation? Or are they genuinely fueling your mental resilience? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I will catch you next time.